right? It's all one thing to say, okay, I looked at my mental side, but what did that actually look like? Did you phone
Well,
some
f-
athletes? Like, how do you
yeah,
learn as a 15, 16? I
I,
mean, that's awesome that you spotted it so early, right?
well, you've been clear. Is that I spotted it because every time I was hitting the ground, it was painful, and you have
Yeah.
to find solution, obviously. So I start to understand, and I try to talk to mountain bikers, but no one could really bring me any information. So I went into sports that was more professional, and luckily at the time I had a friend called Christophe Sayoni, who was like a pro skier, pro downhill skier, and I talked a lot with him to try to understand what was the approach. And now going to a psychologist, or realizing that you have to work on your brain and your mental is something that I would say is fairly casual nowadays in sport and out of sport. But back in the days, like you would go to I would say, psychologist when you have a real problem, when you were sick, you would not go to a psychologist just randomly. And this was something that was, again, really hard to accept the process, and accept about yourself, and realize that the only way to progress was to realize your weaknesses, to solve them. And this was clearly one of mine, because I knew that my physical preparation was on the top out there. I had the best bike at the time. My skills was more than great to perform in the 90s. So I knew that the only problem was myself. And realizing that, and realizing this on the front of yourself in the mirror, passed by some acceptation of who you are, and also be very clear with yourself with who you want to be. And this is a massive step.
Yeah, that's super interesting and even valuable now. Who you want to be, right? You've got to act like your former or your future self, or act like someone you aspire to perform like. And that's something I worked with on a mental coach as well. And obviously, you said an interesting thing there. It was quite taboo back then, right? It's admitting a weakness
Sure.
to put that publicly. Now, Loic mentions he's got someone he speaks to. It's probably more of a life coach. As we know, often things that are going outside cycling can affect your performance as well. It's all holistic. So, but it is nice to hear that it is more accepted and it's not a weakness. If anything, you go, oh, he's working with someone. Well, if they do some good work, he's going to be more of a threat. That's what I hear when someone is working with a mental coach. I'm like, well, if they optimize that just a little bit, he's going to be better than he currently is, and he's pretty damn good currently.
Oh, you're 100% right. You're spot on. It's like working on yourself. Like back in the days, people would have beer in the finish line area to show that they would not be training, and that they were party guys more than
Yeah.
professional athletes. It was the trend, because even if you do one road ride, you didn't want to mention about it. Now you
Yes.
have
Yes.
pro
Yes.
athletes that are posting on Instagram when they go do a road ride. So you actually see that the evolution of the sport and the mentality has grown, and it's true on the mental prep. Like visualization, you don't see people on the side of the start gate the way I was doing it. But if you go to a ski race, you would see 90% of the guys working on visualization. And if you want a small insight, you might remember that race, 2007 in Fulham Champs. That was one of the big one in my radar, and I won 2004, 2005, Corinthians in 2006, and it was a big marathon at the time between Greg, Sam Hill, and myself. And I know that Sam was on top of the game, and unfortunately, I broke my foot in Whistler 4 weeks before World Champs. And there was no way, no chance I would miss World Champs again, because I broke myself in 2006, and I said, well, there is no chance I miss this one again. And I talked to Paul Harton, and I said, okay, well, we're going to find a way for you to prepare my bike. I went to see my doctor, and we developed the carbon shoes, a cross-country carbon shoes, where we took off the carbon area where my fracture was, and we injected silicones in this area to remove vibration from where the crack of the fracture was.
No
And
way.
I didn't train the track where I wanted. I never been really good with cold and marine. Obviously, coming from the south of France is not one of my traits, right? And I trained for about 3 weeks with, at the time, we had MP3. sounds of rain and wind in my ears, and I was visualizing my runs within this environment in the cold outside to be able to put myself in this cold and rainy environment while I was doing the visualization of my run. And I visualized the run also again for 100 times. And I came onto my race week. I remember with my crutches going down the track on track walk. I did only 5 training runs where the bike was fully prepared by Paul, and I took the start with a mindset like if I was prepared the best I could. And I did second behind time for I think if I'm correct 0.77 second. But after the race, I explain all the process and I say, sometimes the silver medal is worth gold because if you manage to exceed yourself in whatever situation you are, that's where you push boundaries and you progress. And visualization and tools and the approach of the medical aspect is all things that is part of the sport. And I think nowadays when I throw back myself, there is a lot of things that I anticipated to be true now, and very open-minded to people when you see all the practice techniques of racing that we have nowadays. So this is a pride for me for sure, 100%.
That is fascinating because I've heard of studies, and I won't be able to cite which ones, but where a group of people were asked to visualize, say, bench pressing over a certain number of weeks, but like really accurately visualize, but they didn't do any training, and then the other group would do the training, but no visualization, just physically do the training, and you'll be very shocked to see that the people that were doing the correct visualization actually increase strength. And again, if I've butchered that, I apologize. But there are lots of these stories, and it makes me think like if you could have that attitude when you're fit in racing, I mean, you could be a powerhouse. It's the same as coming back from injury with low expectations, or Troy at Mount St. Anne just after having a baby. Maybe no expectations. I barely slept. Like, I'm just going to go have fun. His prep was not the same. He would almost under prepped, but it like takes the pressure off, that carefree attitude. Yeah, it's so fascinating to me.
On that topic, the way Troy stepped out of the plane in Mont Saint Anne, the way he arrived on site, the way track walked, there was no debate for me that he was going to win.
Really? What did you feel? What did you see?
His mentality and his approach was a no-brainer. For him, there was no debate. He came to win. And I think in racing and in life, we completely, and in nowadays science, we completely underestimate the power of brain. The power of your mental. In how many people, I will take the completely opposite example, is how many people become sick after an emotional case, like emotional impact. How many people has a massive drawdown, they got something emotional, and suddenly, a couple of weeks later, health issue appear. And that the complete opposite example to what you can draw to yourself when you actually strongly believe into something. When I would have an injury with my mental prep guy, I would visualize the cells on my body rebuilding my bone, rebuilding my fiber. I would visualize myself, the mobility. When I broke my back in 2014 in enduro, I don't know if you remember this one, I badly broke my back and I was very close of not being able to walk again. I spent 1 month laying into a bed because I decided not to have the material in my vertebra, and I didn't want to be the vertebra to be fused. I wanted to keep my mobility, and I stayed a month on the bed looking at the ceiling, and every single hours I was visualizing 20 to 30 steps every single hour of that month, just to be able to have my muscles and the mobility of my fiber still ongoing when it was going to be the time to be moving. I rehabilitate myself in the water with like diving, not scuba diving, but with like oxygen. And I restart my mobility for about 2 or 3 weeks there. And when I've been able to walk again,
it was the same way that it was a month and a half before. It's something that my body never forgot.
Wow.
And that's why I came back. I broke my back in April 2014, and I came back to racing in September 2014. And I won Finale Ligure on the final there. This is a moment of my life, or one of the moments of my life, where I really realized that if I wanted to do something, and if I was giving myself the chance to do it, anything is possible. The boundaries we have around ourselves are the one that we are building through our life. You know, there is this expression where you grow for 20 years through an education and culture and with life experience, and you spend after the 60th years after that to heal from the first 20.
Phew, yeah. I'm now
I
having.
don't know
have
if
a
you heard that
youngsters.
expression.
I haven't heard it, but it makes full sense because I'm thinking about raising my son now, and I'm thinking about all the programming we have, and if the schooling system is correct. Now, I know we've gone a little bit off topic, but the mental constraints that you put on yourself, or people have put on you, till you then put out into the world. But hearing you speak about that, Fab, that's thanks for sharing that, and I'm not surprised that's something you would have done. And you spoke about the mental side, and I just heard you knew Troy could do it, right? Do you think people self-sabotage themselves with their mental talk and their mental state? You know, like they've lost the race before they get there if you don't truly believe it.
It's exactly what I mentioned to a different scale. It's like the first 20 years of your life, you build boundaries around yourself through what we said, and then you try to solve it. It's the same thing with racing.
When you build a race,
You create your own boundaries. Look, you create your breaking points, you create your line, you create your speed, and then when you come to your race run, you create the frame of your race run, and you stick to that. But what I'm trying to say is that let's say that you believe about something else, and you push every little details a little further, then your boundaries just extends slowly, and that's where performance appears. And this all comes with your capacity to believe in what you can do. And every time you push boundaries, adapt your environment to go further. And this is an everyday work. And let's be honest, we are different every day. I am different today than what I was yesterday. And I'm 100% different today than what I'm going to be tomorrow. Because we are bringing our mindset to a different attitude. And if you realize that all of us are like pendulas, you know the pendulas that you use for rhythm, for example, in piano or music.
You're
If you
gonna have
put
to use a
100
different. You're gonna have to use a different terminology. I'm not quite a musician.
yeah, so I know that you will understand. It's like if you throw something with a weight from left to right, and you completely opposite 100 of them in a different rhythm, at some point of time, they all go at the same pace. They all do. And that mentality and what you create in your brain is exactly what's happening. It's like you dial your body and your mindset to where it should go. So if you are pushing yourself every time a little further, and you set your own boundaries that you decided, but not what the environment decided for you, you can progress. Every day you can progress. And racing, the mental game of racing is just out there. You can be your best mate as much as you can be your worst enemy. And being out there every weekend is requiring an automatical process, because human is an animal of repetition, an automatical process that allows you to be in the same mood, the same mental motivation and mental strength every weekend. And that's the whole challenge of racing.
Fuck, that's fascinating. I knew this would be one of those types of chats, so we get into it because was your attitude and mood at races clearly sounds like a choice, because sometimes I was like, this guy is always happy, he's always positive. It's not physically possible for this damn guy to always be positive. Like it's like, fuck, can we not just moan about something? But because some people thrive off that, right? And I'm not saying it's good, for sure. It's self-sabotage at points. is that true? Did you sometimes say, like, I'm just purposely going to be positive, and if it's rain or shine, bike's not working, doesn't matter, I'm going to be the positive Fabien? Because that's what it seems like. It almost seemed fake, but it seems like it was a mental strategy.
It's true. You are totally correct. I'm waking up every day of my life to be who I want to be and not who I am. As rough as it sounds, I'm putting a line to myself with goals, with attitude, to be able to maintain within the values of who I want to be and the goals I want to set. It may sound very mechanical in the approach, but I would say being who we are is very easy. That's very easy. You can be moody. You can wake up every morning and be mad, and you can just smile on sunny days and be pissed off on the rainy day. But is it who you want to be? Is it what you want to show? Is it what you want to represent? Is it the example you want to give to your kids? This is all depends on your own choice, and it might sound very mechanical on the approach, but yes, I take 20 to 30 minutes every morning to wake up my body, wake up my brain, and set up myself to who I want to be from that day.